Okay. It's like we are being live streamed now. I'm going to go ahead and make Tori co-host and make John co-host as well. And then we can start this webinar right now. And John?
Yep, I'm ready when you are, Lawrence.
Yeah, I can do this.
At your leisure.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the October 27th, 2021 BAR Large Virtual Meeting. My name is John Robinson. The other board members present this afternoon are Jay White, Luda Subject, Leon Scott, James Metters. There are no recusals. City staff present are Tori Parrish and Lawrence Courtney, along with our technical staff. The order of the meeting will be as follows. There will be an introduction and overview of the project by city staff to the board and for the public. There will be an application presentation of a 10-minute time limit or as extended by the chair, and any questions to the applicant by the board or staff. Any and all presenters should clearly state their name for the record. Persons affiliated with the project, be they owners, developers, designers, consultants, or others, should speak during this portion rather than during public comment. Written public comment. Written comments will be due by noon the day before the meeting and transmitted to the board members as soon as possible thereafter. These written comments will not be read aloud during the meeting. Additional public comment, a 2-minute time limit per person or as determined by the chair. The applicant does not need to respond to the comments made during the public comment period. Please clearly state your name and address for the record. This period is followed by the city staff comments and recommendations. There will then follow the applicant's response if they choose to use it, or clarification of any of the public comment or city and staff recommendations and comments. A 5-minute rule applies. The applicant will then take a seat and will only speak if called upon by the board or staff. There will then follow a board discussion and vote. The applicant presentation and public comment period is closed at this point. The applicant may clarify any inaccurate information when recognized by the chair by raising their hand and waiting to be called upon, but otherwise may only speak if asked a question by a board member or staff. I would note at the beginning of our meeting and for the general public that agenda item number 6, 635 King Street, has been withdrawn, and therefore the comments related to that will not be in the record tonight. We also have 4 agenda items with which are effectively ministerial acts that we will do here at the beginning of the meeting. This is a reminder to all of the public visitors and guests tonight, as well as applicants. Please limit comments to architecture only. Comments related to zoning or issues such as parking, traffic, lot coverage, and livability concerns are not the purview of this board and therefore cannot be voiced here. Additional protocol for the benefit of our applicants and the public. Information on each application, including documents submitted by the applicant, as well as post-meeting results and staff comments, will be available online at www.charleston-sc.gov/BAR. To view the virtual board meeting afterwards, you can go to YouTube streaming at the link that is shown on the screen. The results and staff comments will be posted by the city website. I think Lawrence probably wants to crank backwards through a couple of those. Please note the following updates to public participation. We've touched upon them briefly, beginning with the September 22nd meeting and for all meetings going forward. The deadline to submit written comments by 12 p.m. the day before is the day before the meeting. The deadline to sign up to speak, as opposed to leaving written comments, is 12 p.m. the day of the meeting. Written comments are received by the board in advance of the meeting and will be acknowledged in the record and summarized. If this is a concern, you are encouraged to sign up and speak at the meeting as well. Public comment instructions are to use one of the following methods to submit written comments or to sign up and speak at the meeting. Please provide your name, address, telephone number, meeting date, and project number. Complete the citizens participation form at innovate.charleston-sc.gov or call 843-724-3765, or you may mail comments to the Department of Planning, Preservation, and Sustainability at 2 George Street, Charleston, South Carolina, 29401. Additional protocol for the meeting. The staff will control the PowerPoint presentation that includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with the submittal requirements. The applicant simply needs to ask the staff to advance to the slide that they want to go to during their presentation. Applicant, staff, and board members are required to give their name whenever speaking. Video and microphone has been disabled for all attendees. Attendees, as opposed to board members or staff, will only be given capabilities to speak when they're called upon during the public comment period. The chat and QA functions associated with Zoom have been disabled for everyone. This is protocol regarding public comment. The applicant and all team members and the public have been required to register, indicate the project they wish to comment on, and submit any documents in advance of the meeting. Just as in an in-person meeting, all applicants heard today are part of a public meeting format. If you have registered and will speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, you will need to state your name and address for the record. Those members of the public that have registered will be called upon in order by project. Staff will call on the registered members of the public to speak for each project. Unregistered members of the public who raise their hand will not be called on. Again, written comments have been received by the board in advance and will be summarized. Additional board protocol. Board members will be called upon by the chairperson for comments and their vote on a potential motion. Each member, when voting, should respond yea in favor or nay not in favor. The chair shall then reread the motion verbatim, and the board member making the motion should correct the chair if he has not reread the motion accurately. If a board member needs to recuse, he or she will temporarily be removed from the meeting and placed back in the meeting at the start of the next agenda item. If the board needs to go into executive session, they will call into a separate conference line, and all video and audio on Zoom will be temporarily turned off until they are ready to return to the regular meeting. Ms. Parrish, what is agenda item number 1 this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is the request for the first one-year extension of approval for demolition of a rear warehouse building. This was originally granted on February 26, 2020, and the extension is pursuant to Article 9, Section 54962 of the zoning ordinance. Project is in the Cannon-Borough-Elliott Borough neighborhood and in the Old and Historic District. This location is going to be for the first 3 items, but we've got an aerial here for you. And then we've got a few context images from the street. And the warehouse building is behind this. Okay, the staff comment. This is a vested right first-year extension requiring automatic board approval if submitted in a timely manner, which is good for 1 year and may be renewed 4 more times in 1-year increments per ordinance section 54962. We recommend approval of a first 1-year extension of the approval for demolition to expire February 26, 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Parrish. This one's pretty straightforward. I have a motion from a board member.
Move to approve.
I'll second that. There's been a motion to approve the 1-year extension in conformity with Article 9, Section 54-962 of the zoning ordinance. The motion was by Mr. Scott. Was that right?
No.
Mr. Metters with a second by Mr. White, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Metters, have I restated your motion correctly?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I have a motion and a second. I'll therefore proceed to call the roll. Mr. Scott, how do you vote on this agenda item?
Yay in favor.
Ms. Sobchak?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yay in favor.
Mr. White?
Yay in favor.
And myself, yay in favor. So the extension is unanimously approved. Thank you very much to our applicant, Ms. Parrish. Agenda item number 2.
This is going to feel like a deja vu. And number 2 is 510 King Street, and the request is for a first 1-year extension of approval for various demolitions originally granted on February 26, 2020, pursuant to Article 9, Section 54962 of the zoning ordinance. This is in the Cannon-Borough-Elliott Borough neighborhood and in the Old and Historic District. And here's the site that you're familiar with now. And then a few street images. Staff comment. This is a vested right first-year extension requiring automatic board approval if submitted in a timely manner, which is good for 1 year and may be renewed 4 more times in 1-year increments per ordinance section 54962. We recommend approval of a first 1-year extension of approval for demolition to expire on February 26, 2023. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Ms. Parrish. This one should also be succinct. Is there a motion to approve the extension?
Move to
So,
approve.
There's been
I'll
a
second
motion
that.
by Mr. Metters with a second to give the automatic extension of permission for demolition pursuant to ordinance section 9-54-962. Having a motion, did I restate that correctly, Mr. Metters?
Yes, sir.
All right, and let's see, I have a motion in a second, so I'll proceed to call the roll. Mr. Scott, how do you vote on this motion?
Yay in favor.
Ms. Sobchak,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters,
Yay in favor.
Mr. White,
Yay in favor.
and myself, yay in favor. It's unanimously approved. We're clipping along, Tori, so don't feel like you have to rush through.
Don't get used to it.
Okay, I know. Yeah, I know.
Slow down.
What is agenda item number 3 for this evening?
All right, this item is 498, 502, and 510 King Street and 86 Mary Street. This request is first, 1-year extension of conceptual approval, conceptual approval, which was originally granted on February 26, 2020, pursuant to Article 9, Section 54962 of the zoning ordinance. Again, this is Cannon Borough, LA Borough, and the height district is 4 and 8, and in the old and historic district. And then we do have their, their conceptual design package we got some context photos here for you. And then we have their conceptual design package, which we're really just going to speed through. Feel free to stop and slow us down if you want. That was weird. We might have gotten some things out of order. Whoops.
That's okay.
We had some real issues with our presentation today, so nothing surprises me there. Let us know if you need us to stop. Okay,
All right. Thank you
this is
very
a
much.
vested. Did you get all that?
I did. It was quick, but it was very interesting.
All right, this is a vested right, 1st-year extension requiring automatic board approval if submitted in a timely manner, which is good for 1 year and may be renewed 4 more times in 1-year increments per ordinance section 54962. We recommend approval of a first 1-year extension of approval for demolition. I'm going to read this. Don't look at the screen. This is approval for a first 1-year extension of the conceptual approval for which will expire on February 26, 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
And that will be what's in the record written.
It's okay. I trust you, and we can certainly correct that in the record.
That's fine. Okay.
You have heard the position of staff recommendation. Is there a motion and second on this request for an extension?
I'll move to approve the request.
Okay. Is there second?
I second. This is Leon Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. White. So to make sure, Tori, we're on the same page, it is the approval for 1-year extension for the demolition, correct?
This one is approval for 1-year extension of the
Of the
conceptual design.
approval. Okay,
Conceptual
well, I'm reading the agenda that I
know.
was previously submitted and trying to cross it with this slide. This is a 1-year extension for conceptual approval for the project that we just reviewed, correct?
Yes, and I take the blame because I couldn't get comments inserted, and so I had to email them, and I think I copy and pasted something too quickly there.
That's okay. Got it.
But in the record, it will be.
1-year
conceptual.
extension of conceptual approval to expire on February 26, 2023. This was the motion made by Mr. White. Have I restated it correctly?
That's correct.
Mr. Scott seconded it. I'll proceed to call the roll. Ms. Sobchak, how do you vote on this motion?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Scott,
Yay in favor.
Mr. White,
Yay in favor.
and myself, yay in favor. All right, we're all set and we're all on board about what we were talking about.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, Ms. Parrish, what is agenda item number 4 for this evening?
I can't promise the next two will be as quickly run through, but
It's
item
okay.
number 4 is 5 and 7, 11 and 13, 15 and 17, and 16, 18 Iron Forge Alley. These are formerly 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 Foundry Alley. The request is final approval of previously approved designs, which have now expired at Iron Forge Alley, incorporating refinements of materials and details. East Side Neighborhood, Height District 2.5 to 3, and Old City District. And you probably remember this context from the last meeting with Julia Martin's presentation. So these are the other cottages that have expired. And this is interior to the block that is surrounded by a line in Nassau and Columbus and Hanover. Okay, let's see. I think we have.
Mr. Chairman, when this says previously approved designs, what level of approval did it have? Did it have final?
I would have to look to the staff for that. The note that I have here is that it was final, but I'll have to ask Ms. Parrish.
Okay.
Yeah, it had preliminary. I'm gonna double checking. I'm gonna make sure we put that in the right.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
So they are now requesting final.
And I elevated Luke. Is he in here?
Luke, are you there?
Yes, I see him. He's muted.
And now
Right, preliminary approval.
thank you very much. I apologize for having to be added. Just to clarify the previous question from Mr. Metters, these projects all were approved final at staff, which is the approval that lapsed. Just wanted to add that note very quickly.
Right. They were given final, they were given preliminary approval with final review by staff, by the board.
Correct. Thank you. And we had completed final staff review on the project. Just to jump in very briefly, and thank you for linking this one up with the projects that Julia talked about at the previous meeting. The projects were previously approved and in for permit. The project was sold. We are now representing the new owner and asking to reinstate those approvals. We have, I believe the buildings are combined into a single presentation here, hopefully today. So I would like to roll through that here in just a second, but just for the benefit of the board, the designs that are being shown today are very, very substantially the same as the ones that were previously approved. After the construction of the right-of-way, there was some civil coordination that was required with one of these buildings that required a small revision. The new owners also had a new structural engineer do a design, so we had to make a couple of revisions to coordinate with that. There was a couple of very small aesthetic revisions that we've made, and darn it, I'm drawing a blank. I think we were clarifying a couple of other small things that we noticed or needed to be shown a little bit better. And then also, prior to jumping into the presentation, I would also like to reference Julia Martin's presentation. Although the material notes for lap siding in this project are called out as hardy artisan, we are requesting that the board authorize BAR staff to receive a revised drawing from us, changing the designation to the same Boral lap siding profile that Julia had approved last week. The second note is the windows that we have shown in this presentation are aluminum clad ply gem Mira SDL with spacer bars. The revision to the Julia's windows are now, she used a Sierra Pacific window that's in the same family class. And we would also request that the board allow us to change the note on our drawings to the same windows that Julia used as well. And then finally, it's come to our understanding that there's a possibility that the board may at this time be comfortable allowing us to use a single bay garage door for two of these units that are, three of these units that are kind of back in the corner that have small single garage doors. That's not shown in our drawings, but again, we would request that the board please allow us to make that revision and authorize the staff to accept and receive that. So with those items, if we could proceed into the first illustration page of the presentation. Let's see, I believe we have the general stuff. Please keep moving forward. Okay, this is good right here. I'm sorry if we go back one. Thank you. This is just a very simple demonstration of some of the precedent imagery that we used for the buildings that we designed within this development. We worked with Julia Martin. She designed some of these, we designed some others, and we worked to find styles that were complementary but not too similar. So we have some similar precedent images, lean a little bit different in terms of the style, a little bit more of a traditional look. Materials are all largely the same, just used differently. And then if we could move forward to the plan of the first one, thank you. So the first one we're talking about is what we call lots 3 and 4. It's an attached single family residence over a property line. This has a tandem garage parking with front doors and access to the main living level. The one on the right side, which faces the next building over, has a detail that is open and screened with a little porch on the side on the next floors, as you'll see. If we could skip forward, please. Both residences have their main living areas on this first floor, conditioned floor above grade. It's pretty straightforward. There's a couple of little revision clouds that you're going to see through this presentation, and I'll try to illustrate them briefly. These windows were clarified. There's some construction notes on here as well as BAR notes. So we were just basically clarifying the correct windows for the back of this building. No changes to the design here. If we could go to the next page, please. Thank you. This floor here are primary bedroom floors on both buildings. And you'll see that the building on the left is pretty straightforward. On the right, we've got a nice porch on that side off of one bedroom. And then these both return to another floor. If we could go to the next page, please. Excellent. The structure on the left, the upper floor has a roof terrace, and conditioned space is recessed back from the front of the building. In the front, sorry, the building on the right is a gable roof, so there's no roof terrace on that one. Revisions on the building on the left, there was one small window in the area where the bathroom was that we removed, and we simplified one more window on the front for constructability within that bathroom. So there was a reduction of one window on the front and one on the side. We felt that they were better from a constructability standpoint and really not visible really from anywhere. We could move to the roof plan. Then this will just simply demonstrate in the general roof configuration. Gable to the right, a lowish sloped hip to the left of the roof terrace. We revised the left side of the roof terrace with the new structural engineering design. We had to change some of the slopes for our terrace. So we added a downspout and a gutter off to the left side there. Previously, that roof drained to that center section and it all ran to the back. So that scupper and downspout on that side are new. That is very near one of the buildings that Julia has designed. You can see from the site plan as we get to the next one. Minimally visible downspout. And then we revised the scupper at the rear of the structure as well, very slightly. That would be all. If we could move to elevations, please. Thank you. Excellent. let's see, could we go, is this the first? So yeah, I'm sorry, I got confused. I apologize. Some revision cloud where we have added information for engineered flood vents on the side here. They're lined up with the center lines of the windows on this facade. And then on the right, the west elevation, we had previously, the parapet was detailed with a paneled condition, and there was a siding on the top, and we thought it might be a little nicer to change that up. So we have changed the top to a panel up there, fiber cement panel. I believe is that correct? Yeah, hardy panel cladding. And we could move ahead, please. The revision cloud across the top demonstrates that we kind of reversed the way that the cladding worked between the parapet and conditioned upper floor. We made some reductions to windows to shorten them up on this second living floor, and we elevated the sill of one of these other windows. This also shows the downspout that I mentioned coming out of a scupper from the roof terrace, and then some of the foundation flood vents, and then some of the tweaks to the exhaust vents that we have on the rear of the structure to work with the new drainage. The other window revisions on the back were clarifying notes to make sure that it was understood that these were to be casement windows to work for egress. They are in the same window family and profile. We could move forward, please. Thank you. We can move past this. This demonstrates some of the structural construction revisions. No changes here. If we keep going. Thank you. I think continuing forward. Okay, excellent. So I'm sorry. No, this would be the power gas. We can move through all these too, please. I apologize. Excellent. So this is the building that is to the right of 3 and 4. It's another attached single-family residence. We're calling it 5 and 6. If we could move into the first floor plan, I think the other information is largely the same. Excellent. So ground floor, no revisions to this one. This is one of the structures that we would request the board allow us to revise that or authorize staff to make that, decide if that's an appropriate thing for us to do. It's not been requested at this time, but I have a feeling the owner may ask us to do that as well. If we could move to the next. Thank you. Similar program, kitchen living spaces on the main living floors here. The revision clouds around this porch. We made a little bit of a revision to the roof line of this porch here. You'll see in one of the further slides, we can skip ahead. That was shown, and it's still unfortunately not perfectly shown. I believe we revised the roof of that one. If we could skip forward. Yes, thank you. I think the elevations may be more effective here. The floor plans in this one are pretty similar to the other one that we just looked at. Yes. And if we could move forward to A201s, thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I think the revision cloud that we were looking at that was on the wrong roof. I apologize. The roof to the left, the little bay projection on this main living floor. Thank you. That was revised. That was a shed, I believe. We changed it to a hip for a little bit of variety. We did a panel switch also on the top floor of this one, basically changing the lap siding to the condition level and moving the panel to the parapet, which we thought was a little nicer. And then the revision clouds around the garage doors, we just changed the graphics to kind of better indicate the two different styles of the doors, the garage doors that we've specified. So that's really for clarification, drawing improvement. If we could move forward, please. This is the side elevations, no major revisions. Continuing forward, please. Drainage revisions to the back, similar as a result of some of the structural redesigns, and then the top floor revision. Move forward, please. And this is generally more the same from the other side. That's scupper though, that then downspout there. That's also in addition as a result of the new structural framing for the roof terrace. And I believe that's all for this one. That's correct. And if we could skip to the first floor plan for what will be next, which is 8 and 9. Actually, if we could go back, I'm sorry, guys. Can we go back to the site plan? I just want to pause for just one quick second on the site plan. Thank you. The orangish color here, the two buildings we're talking about. We're about to talk about the buildings on the other side of 7, which Julia designed, were the two that we just previously talked about. And that's where the garage bay that we may be asking to have double bay is pretty far back out of the way. I just wanted to enumerate that point. So this one here is my personal favorite out here. These are our workforce units, lots 8 and 9. And we can skip into the floor plans now. These ones both have the single bay garage doors, which we would, again, are going to be asking the board to allow us to potentially revise with staff approval. And then to the left, you can see revision clouds around these other porches on the main living floor. We had to shorten the porch a little less than a foot to coordinate with some of the requirements for the new structural drawings. No revisions to the details or any of the other things. They're just a little shorter in the left-right direction. If we could move forward. Thank you. These just demonstrate that change has been made there as well. These are kind of cute little houses. I love them. And sorry, one more slide forward. Elevation's excellent. If we look at the bottom right elevation, we had always intended to have HVAC screening. The condensing units are between the gables and a little flat roof section, but we did not show that, unfortunately, in the previous submittal. So that's been added in just to make sure you all know that we're going to screen our HVAC up there. There was a gutter and a downspout added as a result of the structural revisions that were similar to the other buildings that you see in drawing number 2. And then the revision clouds are in 3 and 4 porches. And then we just clarified that that was an egress window in this operation with that. And that's the last we had for this one. And then we moved to the last one, which is 10 and 11. Thank you. And actually on this one too, if we could pause briefly on the site plan, Lawrence. Thank you. I'm sorry. When the right-of-way was going in on this one here, sometimes things change slightly in the field. And when the road was actually in place, we were able to determine that we had a little bit of an overhang problem on the porch on unit 10 facing the right-of-way that comes planned north. And so we made a revision to that porch elevation, and I'll get into that in a second. I wanted to show you kind of why we had to change that one. If we could move forward to the first floor plan, please. This one has a double loaded garage in both conditions as well. And I don't think it would be reasonable to make a revision to either of these to a double door. The one that is facing plan left, that's along the main drive coming in. And I think that the profiles of these double or single doors would be much nicer. So we wouldn't be asking to make a garage revision to this one here. The 2-car garage is on the first floor. If we could go to the next plan, please. Thank you. So the porch revisions here, the center of the porch is the same, I believe the same depth that it originally was. But since we had to shorten the porch where the road kind of undercut us a little bit, we basically stepped back the top and bottom bays of the porch slightly to allow us to get out of that the right of way. And then the one plan north we did just to give it a little bit of symmetry. That's a pretty symmetrical side in it. And so not a major revision, but that was the biggest design change, I believe, of this one. If we could move forward, please. So you'll see that as opposed to just a simple hip roof, we have a bit of a jog in the center to account for the extra depth of the porch. Move forward, please. This building has roof terraces on both sides as well, although we were able to believe, maintain the framing for this one. Yes, I think so. So I don't think there's any changes to the parapets here. Okay, and then one more, please, into the elevations. Okay, great, thank you. So we're indicating revisions to the porch, clarification of the patterns on the garage doors, and then on the upper floor, we originally, I believe, had a party panel cladding on the upper floor, and we thought it was a little nicer to use a hardy plank 4-inch exposure. So that's yeah, it's a slightly different cladding than what we had before, which I believe was a panel. If we could skip forward, please. Excellent. And I believe that may be the conclusion of that's the last one that we had. I think this is the final elevation slide. And that will conclude our presentation. We'll be happy to receive questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jarrett. We will now move to. Do you have any public comment on this agenda item? I don't think so.
We do not.
Wasn't expecting any. So city staff comments and recommendations.
Sure. The proposal utilizes a hybrid approach of Eagle Metal's standing seam metal roof with 1-inch seams and hand crimped ridges. This method seems permissible as long as the joints are tight and the seams are minimized. While the railing might meet code, a slight tightening of pickets could be more visually appropriate. Civil drawings to be reviewed separately for the overall project. Site work should be deferred until that time. A color palette for the entire PUD needs to be submitted and reviewed. The final 4 permit drawings with revisions have been reviewed by staff. Garage doors should be one consistent type on each building. And as Ms. Martin concluded, one door where possible is more functionally appropriate in the more minimally visible locations. And then, I don't know, so let me know if you want to go back to this detail, we can look at it. Number 7, at the wall sections to the porches, there's a second layer of framing and trim that is not articulated on the elevations. Typically, the elevations indicate a cantilevered structural element or bracket with a chamfered in profile instead. Revise these details to match the elevations. And 8. Windows are called out as Plygem Myra, although applicant has indicated a willingness to match windows used in Ms. Martin's projects. These are the rated Sierra Pacific Feel-Safe aluminum clad wood to promote continuity across the overall project. And then 9 through 12, I have page numbers if we want to go back and take any look at these, but at lots 3 and 4, revise window type S to a 2 or 3 light for consistency with others. Number 10, at lots 5 and 6, revise the panels at the balcony wall of unit 6 to better relate to the proportions of the building and use a pitched roof at the first floor balcony of lot 5. Number 11, at lots 8 and 9, lower the HVAC platform and associated screening as much as possible. And 12, at lots 10 and 11, add the missing pilaster to the first floor porch plan of lot 11. Final staff recommendation is final approval with board and staff comments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jarrett, you have the opportunity to respond or clarify if you choose to use it 5-minute limit. It's up to you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Sounds like we're getting on the same page. All right. Board comments and a potential board vote.
I'll jump in and quickly say that I agree with staff's comments and recommendations.
Okay. And I would second them. And it sounds like Mr. Jarrett's moving in that direction and that everything that staff requested is reasonable and maybe just some things lost in due diligence. This was a stale project that we're rebooting.
Mr. Chairman, I got I reviewed this and it seemed like it could have been in a better situation when it got submitted for this final approval. But there were a lot of things that when Luke was going through it that, you know, we didn't get to that or we didn't get to this. And I think he should get to do it before it's turned in, even though details staff seem fine with me. And that's my comment.
Understood. And it's just handing over a project from one person to another. And as we've seen with other projects, these things happen. And I think Mr. Jarrett's tried to get it straightened out, and we'll work with staff to finish getting it straightened out. Further board comments.
This is Leon.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm comfortable with the board and staff. Staff.
Anything further from the board, or can I entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion for final approval with board and staff comments.
Motion's been made by Mr. White. Is there a second?
I second.
And the motion was for final approval with board and staff comments incorporated. Mr. White made the motion, subject seconded the motion. I will therefore proceed to call the roll. Mr. Scott, how do you vote on this motion?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Nay, not in favor.
Mr. White?
Yay in favor.
And Ms. Sobczak?
Yay in favor.
Myself, yay in favor. So there we go, 4-1. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to our applicant. Please closely work with staff on those outstanding items. Ms. Parrish, agenda item number 5.
Number 5 is 102 President Street. It's the final approval for new construction, a 7-story mixed-use student housing development. Cannon Elliott Borough Neighborhood, Height District 5, Old City District. Getting you some context here. Cannon Street above you. There we go. Sorry about that. Cannon, President, and B Street. B Street lost to the right. This is the vacant site from Cannon and President, looking southeast. This is the MUSC parking garage across the street. And looking north on President. All right, we have Mr. I'm going to do some promotion to panelists here. Tony, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Mr. Giuliani. You have the floor.
Yeah, so my screen just jumped. Am I in presentation now? I have control.
You are live and you are with us, and Mr.
Right.
Court has your plans pulled up in front of us.
All right, so I guess also on the line we have here, Greg Dillon is the owner, developer. Mike Cottrell with Seaman Whiteside. This also should be in here. And then inside the office here, Clark Batchelder. All right, so this 102 President Street was last seen. We received preliminary approval on April 14th, 2021. And at the last meeting, there was board comments about paying attention to some details and some comments for the staff. One of them was about the solid wall down in the right-hand, I guess the southwest corner of the building where the transformer room is and the entry to the garage. For more detail on that when we get to the elevations. Item number 2 was the south elevation contained triple windows. And because of, the north elevation has the triple windows, but that has actually a door in it. It's stepped back. So that we felt was appropriate, but on the south elevation, when we get to the elevation, we'll show it. This is flush with the lower floors. And because of the configuration of the units, the windows would have landed on a demising wall. So we just didn't feel one, it was appropriate with the elevation because it was flush, plus the configuration of the building. Like I said, I'll show those when I get back into more detail and get to the elevations. I guess, then Lawrence, can you jump to sheet L 0.1 and Mike can talk about the landscaping.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes, Tony.
Great.
That's it. That's the previous one. All right, Mike, it's yours.
Okay, everyone can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So as you, well, basically what we'll do is we'll just run around the sites clockwise, starting on the bottom side of the screen. On that side on President Street, we have a wide sidewalk with trees planted of crepe myrtles to match the streetscapes that are surrounding the site. As you step off the sidewalk towards the building, it's a raised plaza area with specialty paving underneath the openings through there before you walk into the building. As you wrap around, very similar treatment with the crepe myrtles that are going to match what's happening on the other side of Cannon Street. And along the edges of where the sidewalk and the piazza start, we have planters that separate the space, and then, stairs from, in certain areas that'll step up onto the patio that's above. As you work your way up Cannon Street around to the top left corner of the building there, we have a courtyard area, I guess I would call that, where seating from inside the building can spill out. There can be a gathering space there. We have stairs that are flush that start from the sidewalk and then become flush to that courtyard area. That courtyard area then leads around to the, I guess, the east side of the building, which is the top of the plan, and leads you into the dog park area, which is a linear space there with synthetic turf that can just be basically a place for a dog run. As you walk through there around to the back side, basically back of house of the building, where there's a cistern that's servicing the building, and around the building, basically a gated area until you get to the side entrance to the building, where there's some specialty paving and palm trees lining that entire space. If you can move to the next slide, please. And by the way, that none of the basic aesthetics and layout and everything have not changed on this plan since the last submittal. Next slide. And then in this slide, you can see the rooftop pool. So on the second level, and just a fairly small pool that'll service the building with a grill station to the left of that, and plantings along the edges of the space. And that's, go to the next slide. And then here you can see the some of the furnishings that will be in the space. And these haven't changed as well. And you can see the bus stop, which I didn't mention in the plan there, the bus stop that will be moved and used on site. And you can see in the upper part of the image board are pavers that will be used on the ground plane, as well as up in the patio areas in the synthetic turf. And then if you move to the next slide, our plantings, which for the most part are native plantings, several evergreens, and we'll move from there. I believe that covers the landscape.
All right, so Lawrence, can you jump to page 16 of 49? It's just jumping over all these details.
Yeah, sorry, I went through that as fast as I could for you guys.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. All right. Oh, 1 2 minutes. Thanks, Lawrence. All right, one thing I forgot to point out was item number 3, which was the dog park and the shared dog park with the neighbors for these street lofts. And at the time we were going through this process, the building was being sold. But we found out today that that sale last week did not go through. So now that that sale's not going through, we will re-engage the owners to see if we can't get some kind of joint park detail. I think it would just benefit both us and them. So we will re-engage with them. And then as far as the floor plan changes, we'll start down in the lower right-hand corner, which is the southwest corner. The transformer room in the garage entry, DOT during the TRC process they wanted a 24-foot wide driveway. We negotiated down to 20 feet. We were going for 18, but they wouldn't allow us. So we ended up with a 20-foot entry, and then the transformer room got shifted around. So we ended up centering the doors. So, Dominion Energy can get their unit inside the building. And then we're on the north side of the building along this west elevation where the handicap ramp is. We had to slide it to the other side of the column. It's during the during the plan review with the building department. ADA clearances weren't met because of the stairwell that we had at the to the right there. So we just pushed the ADA ramp over so we can get the clearance that's required. But other than that, the floor plan changes stay the same. So if you can go to next page. On 17, this is the reflected ceiling plan. I think the last time we met, we had pendant lights and wood ceilings. And so now what we end up with is, because we had the limestone and the limestone detailing, we created this coffered ceiling, and then we put in these can lights that are going to be on dimmers. Because right now, during the pre-leasing process, we're finding out that we're having more interest in the medical field than we are with restaurants. So we want to be able to accommodate both. So we still have seating out there, still have the lighting that would meet. So we changed that a little bit. All right. So Lawrence, if you can jump to page 27, which is the roof plan. I just, unless anybody has any comments about the floor plans, they have not changed since our last submittal. So on the roof plan, there is the previous, we're showing the screening around mechanical equipment. We're proposing we're going to provide the structure to install the screening, but if it's not visible from the right of way, we'd like to not install it. So I think if you go to the next sheet, Lawrence, I think if you do a fit, you'll see a diagram at the top of the page showing the sight lines. I don't know if you can do a fit, but zoom out a little bit. At the top of the page, there should be, I'm sorry, it's on page 28. My fault. Next page. Yeah. Sorry about that. So as you can see, the red lines at the top are showing, indicating the sight lines of the equipment above. So we're asking, once it's constructed and the units are in place, if we can see them, we'll install the screening. But if not, we prefer not to install it. Instead, we will install the structure to support it. All right. On these elevations, the north elevation, the previous is below and the proposed is above. What we're challenging with these cornice details, so we were going back and forth, and we need to thank Ms. Parrish and Lawrence Courtney for meeting us with us several times to work through these details. Because as you can see, the brick detail on the lower one was just it was a bear to detail, and it just looked very cumbersome, and with Lawrence and Mrs. Parrish's recommendations, we simplified it. And then we get to the blow up, you'll be able to see, unless Lawrence, if you can zoom in on both of them, then they can see how, how simplified. That just made the details much cleaner. When we get to the wall sections, I'll go through the details even more, but right now, as you can see, the previous, you can see how the top was just so very heavy and cumbersome, and then same with the lower one. The proportions were a little bit different, so you can see in the proposed, right above the column capitals, we adjusted that lower line in the limestone, so it provided more relief, and we'll show that in the details as well when we get back to the next page. But at the top of the building, we simplified the cornice detail, and then we're proposing to use GFRC at the very top. So one is GFRC, the other is FRP. We would like, I guess we would prefer to use the FRP, but we're showing right now the GFRC. That was, that's the detailing that we started out with. But as you know, GFRC has its limitations in delivery, where the FRP has the same look, same feel, same texture. It's just, again, it's 63 feet in the air. So it'll have the same look, same color as the limestone. So if you go to next sheet, page 29. So again, like I said, we carried the cornice details around to the south elevation, which is President Street. And then, so Lawrence, if you can zoom in on that corner where the hand is. Yeah, so this is the previous design where we had window, the garage door, and limestone design. And of course, if you can pan up so we can see the proposed. So on the proposed for the curtain wall, we pushed it back into the wall, and then we continued the screening, the sunshade louvers up above all the way down across the 3 bays. We pushed the garage door back. DOT had some concerns with stacking, so we were able to push the entry door about 20 feet back, so that this gave plenty of room for stacking and getting out of the building. And then on the transformer room, we're providing the louvers that are also being used on the other side of the building to the garage to cover up the doors, so we're able to mount them onto the doors. And then if you can just pan out just a little bit, you can see the rest of the elevations. Again, like I said, the top of cornice details changed. But as far as like all the window details with the aluminum below the windows, those details just, they remain the same. And then we have more details of separation when we get through to the wall sections. I'll point those out. Go to next sheet, please. Oh, south elevation, and on the previous, you can see where we had the limestone. We turn around, we still have limestone, but where the doors were, we added the louvers to cover up the doors and give it the impression that we had, louvers that were leading into the transformer room. And then the previous louvers, and because of the cornice detail, if you can see the proposed cornice detail at the second floor, we're proposing to simplify that even much more than what was below. We still have some cornice brick corbelling going on, but then the top course would be the GFRC. So by simplifying that, it made those proportions, taller, so it sort of matched what was happening around the front and to the left there. So made those two, balanced. And if you look at the very top, the 6th floor, where we left the double windows, like I said, it continued that path all the way up. So if we would have made those triple windows, it would have offset that balance because like I said, this floor at this point is not pushed back. It's flush with the other floors. All right. Yeah, next page, please. On the east elevation, we did the same application for the lower floor, the garage, where we made it look taller, simplified the cornice detail of the second floor. And then the cornice of the fourth floor and everything else pretty much stayed the same. And then next page, please. This is these elevations weren't in our previous submittal. We just submitted them in. So this is at the second floor courtyard where the pool is. They weren't in our previous submittal. We just added them in. As you can see, we just carried the details around into the courtyard area. Yeah, so now, Lawrence, if you can jump to page 35. All right, so up in the right hand or left hand corner, you see the 3D section of a typical column detail out front on President Street. And in the back, you can see we have, it's a curtain wall system. It's not a storefront. So unfortunately, because we're close to 19 feet tall with our curtain wall, because of impact rated, it had to be a curtain wall system. It was too tall in the storefront. So, yeah, so below the curtain wall, we have limestone panels as well. Then at the detail number 2 is the plan detail at the base of the column. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that for me, Lawrence. You have that or 7, you don't, yeah, perfect. As you can see, like at the base where we meet the sidewalk, we have 3.5 or 3.25 inch thick, which is very similar to the project at King and Spring Street. But we kept it off about 1 inch, because as you know, limestone likes to lick water. So we couldn't take it down any further. We couldn't take it below grade. Even though the manufacturer said that this is still too close, but they'll still warranty the product. We may end up with some staining, but we like the detail, and it'll follow the sidewalk. We made the sidewalk on this side dead level, and then the crosswalk slopes because there's a 3-foot drop from the south to the north. But at the back of the sidewalk is all the same elevation. So we're going to keep that. That'll be a straight line. So we want to keep that consistent all the way down. And as you get above the water table course, you'll see that we drop back to 2.25 inch limestone. And then if you can pan up to detail 6, you can see that that 1 foot floor dimension is the top of the column. That's the column cap. And then right above it is that 8-inch detail. That was what I was explaining before. We added this little relief here deeper, and it helped break up our cornice detail. I mean, the overall height is still the same, but we just basically added another detail element there. Yeah, so if we can continues on the next sheet, so if you go to the next sheet, please. Yeah. So yeah. But you can see as you go up the building, we're at the column in between the brick relief, brick details. We're showing like the soldier course, and then as you get to the top, yeah, you see the GFRC location, which again we're asking for FRP if it's acceptable by the board. And then, so if you can look just slightly to the left there, you'll see that there's a soldier right above the stack bonding above the window. And then previously we had this dental molding, so we still have it in a sense, but we made it flush with the brick. So it's just, you know, it's in, you know, with the running bond that's happening there. So that's no longer protruding. So it'll be flush. Then if you go to the next sheet. So these are the details along the south elevation. Again, you can see the brick goes down to the base, so we'll take that below grade. It's acceptable. Of course, by flashing above. Then the cornice details, how we simplify those and how that was incorporated. And of course, at the top of the building, where we step back in the 6th floor, we have metal panels. We have the details of how it's handle all the articulation at that point. Next sheet, please. All right, so this is our east elevation. And then on this sheet, again, the cornice details are the same, but if wanted to point out as far as the metal panels and details, Lawrence, I think if you go to the next sheet, there are continuation of those. Oh, it's not there. We have that detail. Oh, I'm sorry, go back to page 37. I'm sorry, Lawrence. So if you zoom in on detail number 10, right, yeah, right there. That's it. So detail 10, this is like I said, below the windows. So we're showing a metal panel, and then we have this another decorative piece that's going to be laser cut in front of it. Right now, we're showing about a 1/2 inch relief of it, so to create the shadow. So that's one thing we want to play with once the mock-up is built. We'll put this on the mock-up. I want to play with that 3/8 of an inch gap for our shadow to see the type of shadow that we can get with it. So that's going to be a mock-up. But right now, we're showing that to be 3/8 to a 1/2 inch deep. It's all like bolted together. And so if we can jump to sheet 39. So because we are in AE10 elevation, we have to flood-proof the entire building. We have stacked parking where the parking is being floor stacked, and it goes 9 feet below finish grade, finish elevation, finish floor elevation. So as you can see where they have a dashed line in the sidewalk underneath the main entry there, where they have entered into the building. Move your hand up a little bit, Lawrence. Right, yeah. So you see the dashed line right below his hand. So we're putting it basically in the middle of the sidewalk. So you'll see the little screw heads in the sidewalk, but it wraps all the way around the building. And all the other walls will be flood-proofed. Right now, we're proposing Zypex, waterproof concrete. At the garage door entry, we're going to put the flood panels behind the little precast columns, or limestone columns there. Then for the transformer room, right now it shows the waterproofing on the inside of the building. That's not true, it's on the outside. It's in the wrong location. So all the other ones where we have doors, the flood barriers are on the outside of the building, and at the doorway we have to move it away from the door so that they can open up the door so that people can get out in a case of emergency if it's been flooded. But the panels to the right, as you can see, top picture, that's what our flood barriers will look like. And of course, we're able to store all these on site. And then on the bottom picture, you'll see like in the concrete slab, you'll see where the bolts are. That's what you'll see.
One note to make. This is Clark, Patch Elmer. One note to make that it's actually on the loggia, not the sidewalk.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, so if you can jump to page 49, please. I'm sorry, 41. My fault. Went too far. This is the proposed rendering. Yeah, as you can see at the top of the cornice details. And yeah, if you flip to page 42, you'll see the previous. And as you can see, how just the detailing just got a lot simpler. Next page, please. So yeah, so 43, just another view. And then this is proposed, and then previous is on the next sheet. And then, yeah, the only thing I've left is the colors. I mean, the colors are pretty much the same that we proposed. Yeah, Lawrence, can you go back one page, please? 43. So the brick that we're proposing is a palmetto brick, which is a myrtle sand. It's like an earth tone base color, but it has a white coating on it. Then the limestone is a buff smooth. All the aluminum curtain wall framing is to be bronzed. And then right now you'll see the planters. Right now we're showing planters at the stairwells. We're proposing those to be bronze as well. And the metal panels on the building below the windows are going to be the slate gray. And then the storefront at the top will also be the bronze. And the windows will be bronze as well. The balcony railings will be black. And that's it. Take any questions?
All right. Tori, do we have any public comment on this agenda item?
I do not.
Okay. We will then move to city staff comments and recommendations.
Right. Staff comments. Number 1. The garage door width on President Street has widened from 18 feet to 20 feet per DOT requirements. Accordingly, the pilasters on either side of the garage opening have been pushed over. This change is not filtered up through the windows. Wow, are they not in there? Oh,
Well, they don't appear to be.
okay, well, I got a couple of options. I can pull them up on my screen so that everybody can see them, or I can read them, and show them.
Toria, do whatever you need to do to pull up the images that you want to show us on that
All right.
list.
Give me just a moment to get my screen viewable. Sorry. All right. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Lawrence, I'll have to,
Well, maybe instead of sharing screen and swapping around technology, Lawrence could get you to a sheet that would demonstrate what you want to show us. Particularly in garage. Would that be okay?
that'd be fine.
That way we don't
I
have to worry
don't have
about
page
switching
numbers.
screens and having some technical breakdown or issue. So if we can maybe look at
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
All right, Lawrence, if you want to go to the President Street elevation. There we go. There we go. Right there. Okay. Comment number 1, the garage door width on President Street has widened from 18 feet to 20 feet. You'll see that on the top part of the page there per DOT standards. Accordingly, the pilasters on either side of the garage opening have been shifted over. This change is not filtered up throughout the elevation. While not ideal, this seems to get lost on the elevation and will rarely be viewed from a straight on perspective. Okay. The second comment is way up in the landscape package on page L 2.1. All right, on the bottom left, detail number 9, the wood slat fence. The horizontal slat fence, which will be visible from the east and south corridors behind the building, and as depicted in detail 9, 2.1, is not appropriate for downtown and should be replaced with the typical double-sided 6-foot urban privacy fence. And I can show you where that is if you want to go to the site plan.
Okay.
Maybe go one more. I think it's in the actual architecturals. You can see the fence line, but let's go on. Okay, here we go. So, back up one slide if you don't mind. Sorry. Okay, right here you can, if you look at the top left, you'll see the gate in the dark gray hardscape section. Right there, yeah. So the fence starts here and then it goes to the property line and wraps the east property line, comes down the south property line, and you'll see the other gate right there at the first tree. So we feel like there's still visibility to that, and that should be the typical urban standard. Okay, number 3, the cornices. Let's go to, well, I can just read this and then we can look at it if needed. The cornices, which were previously corbelled brick, are now proposed in GFRC. It should be noted for clarity that these are detailed on pages 35 through 38, but are not updated on all elevations and renderings. And therefore, for purposes of discussing the details of that, we're looking at pages 35 through 38. Okay, number 4, if you want to go to page 36, perfect. Provide a section through the storefront in addition to wall section A36. There is a, down here at the bottom left, you get a little bit of a hint of the base underneath the storefront. That does indicate that limestone is on the exterior. I would prefer to have a blow up of that entire storefront at the ground plane there. Number 5, louvers are to be consistent in their appearance and trim. This is related to the louvers that have been added to the elevation at the top of the base ground floor openings. We just want to see consistency all the way across, even to the louvers that are in the that last bay that's utilitarian. Number 6, this was just discussed. There's now no mechanical screening on the roof. Applicant is cautioned that any visible mechanical equipment will have to be screened. Number 7, this has also been addressed. Applicant is encouraged to pursue the effort to work with the ownership of B Street Apartments on the shared park opportunity for the April 14th preliminary approval. Ownership at B Street Apartments has indicated that no effort has been made to coordinate on the potential shared park space. So we're encouraged to hear that that's going to happen. And then the staff recommendation is final approval with board and staff comments.
Thank you, Ms. Parrish. And you did a great job bouncing back and forth with Lawrence. You and Lawrence.
Well, apologies for that.
No, you owe no apologies. You got a lot going on. We could follow you exactly. We followed your comments and Lawrence guided us through slides. It is just fine. All right. The applicant may avail themselves of a 5-minute period to reply only if they feel it necessary.
No, I mean, we agree with her comments. I mean, we see no objection. We can certainly work with those.
Excellent. That's what we love to hear. That's great. Thank you for that from the applicant. Having closed the rebuttal period, do any of my fellow board members have any comments on this agenda item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll start if you want me to, or if that's okay.
Yes, sir, please.
I support Tori's comments. Second is, I believe the HVAC screening should be installed. I understand it's not visible, it's not required, but I think it should be installed. Utility doors on the east, I think it was the east elevation, Lawrence. Actually, that's it. That may be it right there. I can't tell. There were 2 doors, I think they were on the east elevation, close to the corner, and they were, they stood out to me just because they were the only very plain.
Nice talking about those 2 doors.
I guess that's it right there. No,
The trash
East.
or, yeah.
The east elevation, right? Just the utility doors down towards the north side. And I realize that that may be very minimally visible from the street, but it's certainly going to be visible for some of your neighbors. And that's a real plain part of that side of the building. So, dressing those up with color or texture or something to make them blend in a little better. Sheet 30. The metal and limestone is, I mean, I'm assuming that, I may have written down the wrong. Yeah, you see that there are two plain doors there. It looks like vents and above those, and then there's a blank space, and then there's a column off to the right and column off to the left. I just couldn't tell when I was looking on the computer earlier whether those also are in alignment with the details above. I assume that they will be, but I'm just making that as a comment. I couldn't tell. Sheet 31. The same, the on the left-hand side or the southern end, just those appear to be aligned with what's above, but I just wanted to confirm that they were. Sheet 33. Yeah, so I wrote down the wrong sheet earlier. Tony, I'm thinking about the angle irons and the structural and how those extend out for the balconies or other angle irons that are used to support the limestone. And there was discussion about whether or not that may be subject to water sometime in the future. So anything that's going to be subject or possible for water to get to, hopefully those angle irons or fasteners would be some type of stainless steel or non-ferrous metals. Again, the flashing detail on the balcony rails or the balcony supports. And then as far as the flood mitigation, where it's anchored into the ground or the sidewalk, I get that. But if there was a way for that to be anchored to the inside jambs of the openings rather than the face of the buildings, I think that'd be preferable. So they're not so visible.
They're tucked behind. They're not visible from the street.
I'm talking about the holes on the drawing I looked at. You could see where the fasteners would go into the looked like there were corresponding holes in the side of the building.
Yeah, I'll take a look. All right.
Okay, thanks, man. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Matters, for those comments. Other board comments?
Well, I'll say that I appreciate James's thorough review, and because of that, I don't have to say a word other than to voice support for his comments and those of staff.
Ditto. Any other board comments? Hearing none, is there a motion from a board member?
I'd move for approval, Mr. Chairman, with board and staff comments.
Mr. Metters, as I understand it, your motion is for final approval with incorporating board and staff comments. Have I restated your motion correctly?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. White. I have a motion and a second, so I'll proceed to call the roll. Ms. Sobchak, how do you vote on this motion?
Yay, in favor.
Mr. Scott?
Yay, favor.
Mr. White?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yay in favor.
And myself, yay in favor. I was glad to give the applicants some additional time since we've had matters fall out this evening. Thank you to the applicants for their presentation this evening. Thank you to our incredible staff for making do with a small tech glitch. No fault or apology is owed. You made it work, and that's what counts, especially this day and age. And thank you to my fellow board members for your diligence. A gold star, especially to Mr. Metters tonight for a thorough
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
to President Street and showing us just how much he does care about the quality of these projects. Thank you all. Hope you have a great Halloween weekend, whatever that entails, and look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to take one moment, if that would be
Yes,
okay?
Sure. Sure.
To, I would like to confirm, and John, this might be something we need to vote on, but I got a lot of response about next year's schedule and looking at the November meeting and doing the same thing we do for December by having one meeting. So we don't have a meeting Thanksgiving week, and then we would have to omit the agenda cap on items. Do we need to vote on that, John?
I do not believe we need to vote on it, but we're going to take a vote on it out of an abundance of caution. And so I would move that we do the one meeting in November and concurrently remove the agenda item number cap. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. I'll proceed to call the roll. Ms. Sobchak, how do you vote on this motion?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Scott,
Yay in favor.
Mr. White,
Yeah, in favor.
and myself, yay in favor. So long meeting November 2022, but that's okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that is, that's not eliminating the agenda cap every month, is it?
No, that was just for the month to justify not having two meetings around the holiday
Okay.
schedule and acknowledging that because we have many applicants, that's going to be a long night worth it. It's worth the trade.
Agreed. Just wanted to confirm. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. We're a very, my service on this board in part is conditional on having an agenda cap normally, but no, that's great. You guys, the veterans who did this till 2 a.m, y'all are just better people than I am. I'm not going to make that a regular thing unless we have to. Thank you all again for your cooperation. Tori, thank you for bringing that item to our attention. I don't think we needed to vote on it, but we're squared away if we did.
We're good. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you all.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank
Thank you.
you.